to reflect the 1915 feminine ideal, she chose her image perfectly. But the years Edith served as First Lady, 1915 to 1921, saw profound changes in women's social roles. World War I required women to take on traditional male jobs and do them well. Suffrage activists pushed for recognition of women's rights, not only securing the vote, but also challenging the notion that public life was the exclusive domain of men. And while Edith was never a suffragist, she did take on more public roles than any First Lady before her. She was the first to stand behind the president when he took the oath of office. She was the first to accompany her husband on business calls with cabinet secretaries. She was the first to travel abroad while her husband was in office. She was welcomed and celebrated by royalty in England and Italy in a way no leader's wife had been before. She was admired globally for her public visibility, which was all still very much in the service of her husband, never for her own agenda. When she accompanied her husband to Europe in 1918, one English reporter gushed, "No queen could have had a more queenly manner. No great lady could be more gracious. No woman more utterly winning than President Wilson's wife." Edith kept that clipping in her scrapbook. So when her husband collapsed from a stroke in October 1919, no one should have been surprised when Edith inserted herself between his sick room and the public. She would protect him from anything that might make his condition worse, which included most of the duties of the presidency. From the day of their marriage, she had cast herself as his devoted helpmate, there to make his life easier both in private and in public. And she would continue that role until her husband recovered. For a little while, that was enough. The sympathetic public worried over their fallen leader and supported his wife as gatekeeper. But what no one knew, what they could not know because Edith controlled the truth so closely, was just how sick Woodrow was, how many decisions he could not make, and how long his illness lasted. For weeks, he was almost totally incapacitated. For months after that, he was weak, easily confused, with slurred speech, limited vision, and a useless left arm. He tired early and was sometimes unable to control his emotions. He slept a lot. Meanwhile, it was Edith who met with cabinet secretaries, Edith who drafted public statements, Edith who made decisions about who could visit her husband, what issues to tackle, and which to ignore. As history has revealed just how thoroughly and how long Edith maintained control over the executive branch, Americans have professed themselves amazed that this unambitious woman, this wife who wanted nothing more than to serve her adored husband, had the confidence, brains, and cunning to pull off a conspiracy of this magnitude. But anyone who pays the slightest bit of attention to Edith before her 1915 marriage shouldn't be surprised at all. Edith's obituary in 1961 described her as a most retiring woman to that date. She entered public life in that peculiar white-hot glare that surrounds the White House in a near-election year. This is typical of the accounts that completely fail to even attempt to understand Edith, painting her as a not very bright country mouse who magically became the nation's most powerful woman overnight. Many adjectives can accurately describe Edith, but retiring is not one of them. She was fierce, clever, gracious, funny, loyal, and brave. Also petty, snobbish, jealous, and bigoted. She had a somewhat fickle regard for the truth. These are not character traits she developed in the white-hot glare of public attention. Her whole history reveals a woman of uncommon shrewdness, ingenuity, and a little ruthlessness. Were she a man, her story would be celebrated as an up-by-your-bootstraps American dream. An Appalachian girl from dilapidated Southern gentry without much formal education, Edith managed to move to Washington on her own as a teenager and thrive in the flashy society of the nation's capital in the Gilded Age. Beautiful and popular, she tripped lightly through romantic attachments before they became too serious. When she eventually married, she did so for stability and security, not love. She became the first licensed woman driver in D.C. and blithely ignored traffic rules as she tooled around town in her electric car. After her first husband died,